Good afternoon to everybody on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. My name is Grant Mitchell, and I am here to talk to you about the Washington Commanders. Now, as most of you probably know, the rookies are back in session. Training camp has already started up for those guys. The veterans will be out there on Tuesday. Will Terry McLaurin be one of them? There's some reports that the deal isn't close. There's some reports that a deal's coming on Monday. All I know is I'm going to be here talking about it. So please, if you are a fan of the Commanders, if you just want to know what's going on in the NFL, if you like me, want to support me, hit the subscribe button because we do have daily content on the way. And the dead season, it's over. One breath in, one breath out. We made it, okay? Now, no games, still got a month and a half until week 1, but when the players are back at training camp, we get media clips, we get interviews, press conferences, practice footage, all that great stuff, and we can really begin our journey as fans and impartial arbiters, objective analysts, whatever you are. We can finally rejoice that football is back. So again, as I mentioned, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please do it. Would love for you to join the community. Hit the like button as well. It does help me out tremendously and help out this video, get it out there to the rest of the YouTube algorithms. Okay, so with training camp going on and with the rookies being back, today's video is going to be heavily focused on the rookies because, to be honest, again, the dead season, there's not a ton of news. We talked about the Von Miller signing. We talked about the Terry McLaurin contract debacle. Right now, I want to focus on these rookies. And there's a really big reason why. And I don't mean to dig up old dirt, pour salt in old wounds, but the Commanders have the oldest roster in the NFL. And if you want to assign blame for that, it's the Ron Rivera leadership tenure. Because, let's face it, they didn't draft very well. If they had drafted well, that average age of 27, which the Commanders have right now, might be 26, 25, maybe even 24. If you were getting impact players who were drafted a couple of years ago, well, now all of a sudden you're seeing the progression. The age goes lower and lower as the generations move forward. That's not the case. The Commanders had to sign those veteran guys who weren't getting a lot of deals and offers on the open market. They had to go sign Austin Eckler and Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner. And I'm not saying anything bad about these players because, as we know, the team got to the NFC Championship game last year. But that's great for the present. The future, aside from Jayden Daniels, isn't really immediately clear. Did Mike Sainer still have a solid rookie season? Yes. Did Jerzon Newton? Maybe. Ben Sinnott didn't really show anything. Luke McCaffrey, Jordan McGee, Dominique Hampton. There's still a lot of uncertainty about who that next generation of leaders will be for the Commanders. And although they only had 5 draft picks in this last draft, I do believe there's some really potentially crucial pieces in here. So we're going to start it off with, obviously, the number 1 guy, Josh Conerly Jr. When the Commanders made that pick on draft night, like a lot of other people, was I disappointed Dominique Hampton, Omarion Hampton, went just before? Yeah, it would have been really cool to have him. Would I have loved to have had Travion Henderson or had Emeka Egbuka fall in it all? Were there more sexy picks available? Sure, of course there were. Malachi Starks being one of those guys, ended up going to the Ravens. Or actually, was he picked before the Commanders? Now I can't remember. Point being, a lineman isn't a sexy pick. Unless you get like the first, top 5 pick in the draft, you get the first left tackle. Okay, that's pretty cool. But to get a lineman at the end of the first round, you're not looking at that like, wow, I need to go buy that guy's jersey. But what this did show to me was a sign of intelligent front office team building and a sign that they are committed to the future. Again, despite what it might look like with these older players, Von Miller being the latest example, they want to build for the future. Because I'll tell you what, when you have a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, your quarterback's going to put up great numbers. The receiver's going to put up great numbers. But you don't have game-to-game, week-to-week, year-to-year stability. You want proof of that? Go look at the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Joe Burrow can win an MVP on any given season. Jamar Chase can win Offensive Player of the Year any given season. T. Higgins is making about $30-35 million a year, and they missed the playoffs. That's what the Commanders are hoping to avoid, because if you look around, and you have Deebo Samuel. Let's take Terry out of the equation because we don't know for sure what's going to go on with him. But if you have Deebo Samuel and Noah Brown and Jaylin Lane and Luke McCaffrey and Michael Gallup, but you give Jayden Daniels, the Jayden Daniels we know that can be a top 5 quarterback because he proved it as a rookie. If you give him time, he's not dealing with pressure, and you're also able to create running lanes so that the defenses have to honor the run and take pressure off of him. You don't need all pros at these skill positions. As long as you have a foundation, a protection, well, your team's going to win games. Now, are you going to need playmakers to get over the top? Yeah, that's kind of what the Chiefs ran into against the Eagles. And of course, their offensive line did not help them either. But when you build the foundation, I always compare this to like building a house. If you put in these incredible stained glass windows and everybody comes from around your neighborhood to come take pictures of it, and then the house collapses 5 years later, well, what was the good in that? But if you build the best foundation in the world and you put in just your standard windows, well, you might not get people taking pictures in front of your house, little selfies, but your house is going to be there forever. And when you have a quarterback who is what we all know Jayden Daniels can be, and he is a dual threat, so he's naturally going to be at a little more risk, you have to protect him. So I like this Josh Conerly Jr. pick a lot, and I'm growing more or higher and higher on it as we go on, especially with the signing of Von Miller. Because aside from working with a great tackle like Laramie Tunsil, I think is probably the best thing that could have happened to Josh Conerly. What's the second best thing? I think probably going against Von Miller in practice. Hearing what he has to say, learning from him not just on the field in their one-on-one drills, but what is Von Miller saying to him? How is he making him better? Especially since Conerly is switching from the left to the right side. I think it's just the best possible situation for a guy like that. And if you get the book-in tackles correct and Brandon Coleman comes good, he showed potential last year, did still allow either 9 or 10 sacks, so you got to get better, but showed potential. You've got a Pro Bowler in Sam Cosmi, and Tyler Biadasz is a good center. Then you're looking at, for at least the next 3 years, having a top 10 line every year if it pans out. And that would be pretty crucial to the team's bottom line. Moving on over to the defense here. So kind of going back to that first round about what would have been a sexy sort of pick there. Edge rusher definitely would have been one of those guys. But if I remember correctly, I think according to like big board rankings, the top edge rusher, Donovan Ezaraku was there. And then I think it might have been Nick Scorton and some other guys in that ilk. You lost out on your Jalen Walkers, your Michael Williamses. Some people think Jihad Campbell could rush off the edge. I don't think he will, but I guess it's possible. Shamar Stewart, who doesn't even have a contract, that's a different story. They didn't go with the edge. Of course, Von Miller's there now, but they went with the secondary Trey Amos. And honestly, I love this deal, or I love the pick rather, because if Marshawn Lattimore doesn't work out, it's a bad trade, it's a bad contract. They can get off of his contract, I believe, for no penalty against the cap next year. I think it was $2 million this year, no penalty next year. Trey Amos can just swap him right in. He can be your cornerback one. And if you need to, you can put Mike Sainristil back outside on the other side. If Marshawn Lattimore comes good, and it turns out, no, it was just a health thing when his hamstring isn't hurting him, he's still a great player, well, then you've got 3 legitimate corners, not even talking about Jonathan Jones, who's a guy who was a very good player for a long time with New England. And you might not look at him as your number one lockdown corner who's traveling with Neighbors and A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb every play, but a guy who could get in there and give you production. You're looking at a really good secondary. And if the pass rush is not going to get there, because although there's potential with this rotation, rush by committee sort of thing they have, the Von Miller signing, there's potential. They don't have an all-pro, so you're probably not going to depend on pressure every time you need it. But if you're locking down the secondary, that opens up the opportunity to get things like coverage sacks. And Frankie Louvu was the most blitzed linebacker in the entire league last year. So how do they feature him? Is he coming with pressure more often or not? Is he able to get after the quarterback? As long as Trey Amos is average for a second-round draft pick, so a solid starter, it really helps the defense. Defense last year, I want to say, was something like 22nd against the pass and 27th against the run in terms of EPA per play. So you needed to make some improvements there. If you couldn't get the edge rusher, corner was absolutely the right thing to do. And I believe as long as it's somehow possible, they will address edge rusher in the next draft. In the 4th round, the Commanders go with Jaylin Lane. Now, with the whole Terry uncertainty here, not that I think Jaylin Lane is an X receiver in the NFL, but having at least more options in the event this Terry thing gets ugly, it's gonna help. If the Commanders are at full strength and we're looking at the team with Terry on one side, Debo in the middle, and Jaylin Lane in the slot, that's where you could see some really cool stuff happen. Because Terry is the best deep ball tracker in the NFL. He and Jayden had that amazing connection down the field last year. Debo, despite the concerns that he's getting old quickly and he's injured a lot and he's lost a step, he's led the league in yards after catch for 4 straight seasons. So at least you know you can get the ball in his hands and he'll make stuff happen. And then Jaylin Lane is the best returner in this class. So same thing with him. You get the ball in his hands, he's going to cut through the open field well. Plus, this is a guy who ran a 4.3. So if you can isolate him on a mismatch over the middle of the field, get him on a linebacker or something, that is easy explosive plays. And at full strength, if you've got Conerly and Tunsil locking down the sides, so you've got good protection from your tackles, Jayden is a threat to do anything. Go short, go deep, take off and run. You got to honor him. Maybe you have a spy on him. You've got Debo controlling the middle and underneath stuff. Terry's your deep ball threat. You can't account for everything. And a guy with game-breaking speed like Jaylin Lane can change a lot of things for this offense. I talked about this in yesterday's video. Zach Ertz said his summer standout for the young guys is Jaylin Lane. I've heard a bunch of names being thrown around there, and the teammates are not going to talk bad about their teammates. Sorry, the players are not going to talk bad about their teammates, but it's nice to hear a vote of confidence for Jaylin Lane. The 6th round pick, this is where things get a little more interesting. Kain Medrano. While I don't think it's crucial at all to the defense that he does work out, I actually think it would be incredibly impactful if he does. Because you're talking about a guy who's a converted wide receiver. He ran 4.4 in the 40 as a linebacker. He's got pretty solid coverage skills against running backs and tight ends, and that's oftentimes where you're going to kind of isolate your mismatches. He can be this sort of big nickel player on obvious passing situations. He can get after the quarterback, his experience as a rusher, and then, you know what? Maybe he becomes like a hybrid safety, one of these box safety sort of types. Like if Fred Warner, and I'm not talking about ability, because Fred Warner's best middle linebacker in the league, but if Fred Warner was just like a little bit smaller, their athletic profile would basically be the same because their testing numbers are already basically the same. So if you have someone like that as we transition out of this Bobby Wagner era to like getting Jordan McGee and Dominique Hampton on the field, and you put Kain Medrano back there, the multiplicity, the variability of the defense changes completely. So again, I don't think it's a necessity, but I think it's like the best luxury possible if it does work. And then the last guy to talk about, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. One of the most interesting picks in any team in the NFL draft, a 7th rounder who was supposed to be like a 3rd or a 4th rounder. If you look at what the trajectory he was on, he goes to his 6th year, his first one in Arizona, plays one game, does really well, and then he gets ruled out for the rest of the year because of eligibility issues, goes to the Shrine Bowl, wins MVP, and by all accounts, he's impressed in the summer so far. It really does look like a guy who was bad. His numbers were not good at Alabama State for 4 years. But then once he transferred to New Mexico and then Arizona, his career started to take off. You saw him prove himself and get the All-Star Bowl. He's doing well in the summer. It really does look like if he had been given the chance to play that 6th year, then he would have been a day 2, maybe early day 3 sort of pick in the draft. There's a lot of frustration around Brian Robinson Jr. I've certainly been one of his skeptics. I think he's very much is who he is. He's running for 3 or 4 yards on basically every play. He's not explosive at all, but he is okay between the tackles, okay outside, solid at pass blocking, okay at receiving. He does everything average, a little bit above average. if you just get another option, and I'm not saying Jacory Croskey-Merritt has to be on the field for even 50% of plays, but if he proves that he can be an explosive runner of the ball, then again, it really helps the offense because Jayden Daniels cannot be the leading rusher of the team year in and year out. It's just not sustainable for the long term. You know, Lamar Jackson does put up these monster numbers, but Baltimore has an elite run game every year, and he plays a big part in it, but it's not just him, especially last year. Derrick Henry had 1,900 yards last year. Not putting those expectations on Croskey-Merritt whatsoever, but I'm saying that amid Zach Ertz being 35 years old, amid Debo potentially being broken down, amid Terry's contract situation, you can't forget about the value of the running back because that too will take some of the pressure off of your quarterback. And look, we are just getting started with training camp. There are going to be so many more headlines, practice footage, quotes from the coaches, everything for us to react to. And like I mentioned earlier, the veterans will be back on Tuesday. So you know what, guys? It is Sunday, but I do have some homework for you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video as well, and go to the comment section. Because when I make these videos, it's not just for fun. It's not just for my benefit. I want to know what are your opinions on everything I'm saying. Today, here's the thing. I want you to go to that comment section. I want you to tell me, who do you think, best case scenario, who do you think can be the most impactful rookie that the Commanders have? Again, their individual best case scenario. Let me know who it is. I'll be responding to all comments. Until I catch you guys next time, have a great day.